Hi, everyone. Welcome to Science Buffs, the ultimate podcast for STEM enthusiasts. I'm Sam.
And I'm Abby.
I almost said I'm Abby because I'm used to you doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm Sam.
Nailed it.
So, what did you do this week, Abs? What's new?
Oh, well, I was reviewing my pictures because that's the only way I remember what I did. But my son met Santa this weekend for the first
Wait,
time.
why have I not
Met
received
Santa.
images?
I posted them on Instagram.
I actually
You didn't
did.
see?
I like them.
Maybe.
Oh,
I'll send them to you.
okay.
But we went to this like Christmas bazaar. It's called like a craft show sort of thing. And Santa was there. And so like Santa came up and was like, "Hey, do you want a picture?" Like one of his elves came up, "Hey, do you want a picture with your baby?" And I was like, "Sure." Anyway,
Oh,
he was fine. Like he did this like very gummy smile. He's at this age where I think he's kind of starting to teeth. So he starts going like this.
oh my gosh.
And he was just smiling with his beanie on Santa's lap. And it's just so cute. So
That
we
is
did that.
adorable.
And then on Saturday night, I went up and I drove like an hour to the church that I go to and got baptized, which was really awesome. But then the way home, yeah, Will was just screaming his head off. Like he was not
No.
excited because now, it gets dark at like 5 p.m. and he
Yeah.
hates car rides in the dark. I think because he's like in the back seat and there's no one there. So he was just crying like at the top of his lungs. I was like, it's
Oh.
okay. And then he fell asleep and he would like wake up and cry. And I
He's
was
like,
like,
I'm home. He's like,
it
I'm
was terrible.
alone.
Yeah. So I was like, it's okay.
Poor
Like I was trying to like
baby.
rub his head while I was driving and still be safe on the road. I was like,
Mm,
it's okay.
poor
So yeah, the
baby.
joys. But yeah, it was okay. Like he fell asleep for most of the time. And then we got home and snuggled and I put him to bed. So that was my exciting weekend. That's pretty much all I did. And then Sunday I just hung out, just
That's
chilled.
fun. Do you
Yeah.
watch
What'd
more
you do?
Christmas movies?
Oh yeah. We watched what did we watch? We watched this one with Brooke Shields going to a
Oh, a
castle.
castle. It's
Yes.
called, I can't remember what it's called. My mom likes that one because my mom is a big Brooke Shields stan.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like she falls in love with like the owner slash
Yeah.
groundskeeper. So we'll have to I'll put in stories when I know the title. I have no
Yes.
idea what it's called, but
Oh, A Castle for Christmas, I think.
yes, you're
Yes.
correct. Yeah, it was good to have in the
Yeah, I like
background.
that one.
So that's what we did. What'd you do?
Yeah. Um, well, I'm still sick, which is like the
Mm.
longest cold I've ever had in my life, I think.
Okay, I realized, side note, that last week we recorded an intro and said that you were sick, and then we restarted, and then we didn't mention that you were sick.
Oh yeah.
And
Well, you
so like
probably picked up on the couple of sniffles I heard in there was not great. I tried to mute
so
myself, but
yeah, you did
yeah.
a good job. I didn't notice too many, but that's
Yeah.
unfortunate that you've been sick for a full week.
Yeah, I don't know. I was on the mend. I felt like I was getting better, and then I woke up with a sore throat, and it's been
Ugh.
that way for like 3 days. So I
Have
don't know.
you had that throat coat tea?
No.
Oh, it's
What is
pretty
it?
good. It's I don't know what it is, but it's literally called throat coat. I think it's like a blend of like chamomile and a bunch of different kinds that are supposed to soothe your throat a little bit.
I'll
Maybe
have to try
peppermint
that.
or something. I don't know.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'll probably be drinking a lot of water during this podcast,
At least
but
you'll get
hopefully I
over
get
it
better.
before Japan because if you were
Yes,
sick in
hopefully.
Japan, that would be bad.
Yes, I leave for Japan in a couple weeks and I'm super excited. I haven't been out of the country. Well, I went to Mexico last year, but
Oh
I
yeah.
haven't
When's
I
the last time
haven't
before that you've been out of the country?
I haven't been out of the country since I was in high school. So, like I went
Yeah.
to when I was in high school, my parents took me to Europe. And
Where'd you go?
I
Like
went to like
Germany?
Germany, Italy, Greece, Croatia was my fave.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. And then
All
nothing
in one trip?
all in one trip. Yes. Yeah, so it was
Wow.
really cool. I know I was under drinking age though, so I didn't get to like experience like
Yeah.
the Italian like vino and stuff like that.
That'd be cool.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
I went to Ireland when I was like 14, I think. So everyone's like, "Did you go to the Guinness factory?" I was like, a little young, but
Yeah, I would love to do that. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm going for grad school. So, we just had like our class briefing today
so what class are
and
you going? Like, explain the class and why you're
yeah,
going, I guess.
so we talked a little bit on our bonus episode how I'm studying for my MBA and this class is like a requirement. You can take it domestically, but occasionally they offer an international course and it's called a global immersion. And we're going to study Japanese businesses that have been in business for like hundreds of years. And the
That's
whole
so cool.
focus of
What
the class is
businesses?
like so many. So the whole focus of the class is customer experience.
Oh, okay.
But we're going to like a matcha business and I love matcha.
My gosh.
So I'm very excited. One interesting thing was I guess I'm not a big gamer,
Hmm.
but I guess a lot of people were requesting for us as a class to like go tour the Nintendo factory. But I guess Nintendo is very, very like closed door with their
I
proprietary
could totally see
information.
that.
Yeah.
I feel like they're
So
kind of
they're
Disney-ish in that.
yeah. So they won't let us go to their factory, but they are sending somebody out to give a talk to us at our hotel. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, you
so
were
it'll
gonna
be
have
cool.
such, sorry, back to the matcha.
Yes.
You were gonna
Matcha.
have such good matcha.
Well, it's funny. So, little backstory about matcha is Abby and I used to make fun of people that drink matcha. We're like, people just want to drink it because it's a fad. And we used to meet up for coffee once a week. And one day we went to like this bougie place, and Abby was like, I think we looked at each other and we're like, we'll try the matcha. And we have both been addicted ever since.
It's yeah, I used to think maybe my taste buds have like matured because I used to think it tasted like dirt. Or maybe I just had
Yeah.
bad matcha. That's you know what, that's probably it. And my taste buds
Yeah.
have matured. But now I like the earthy taste. Like I kind of
Yeah.
like that it tastes like dirt.
I have heard though, like I'm definitely bringing matcha home. I have heard though that Japanese matcha is a lot more bitter than matcha you get in America.
Okay,
So might have
I'm
to
excited to
sweeten it up.
try. I'm
Yeah.
excited to try.
So
That'll be fun.
I'm
Cool.
excited. I'll do we can do like a
Yeah.
whole bonus episode on
Oh,
Japan.
please, please.
Yes.
Also, did you see Amelia Earhart? Amelia Rose Earhart.
Yes. She reposted us
she,
and she listens to our pod, which is
I
amazing.
know.
She is an amazing
So
human being.
I love her. It's like, yeah, she's so great. I texted Sam today as Amelia Earhart like reposted ours to her story, our story to her story. I was like, oh my gosh. I was
Yes.
fangirling hardcore. So, hey, if you're
Yeah.
listening, we love
Yeah,
you.
thanks for the support. We love you. We're fans. Also, can we interview
Also,
you?
please come on our podcast and we will be reviewing your book very soon.
Yes. Yes. After
So
Japan.
cool. Yeah, after Japan.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you
All
ready
right.
to get into it?
Yes. So I forgot to do my clues until like 5 minutes before. So, but they might not be the best clues, but we're going to
It's
go
okay.
for it.
We'll
Clue
do
number
it.
one, it has to do with aviation. That's all I can
Planes.
give you.
Just kidding.
I mean, yeah,
Maybe
that's in the right
how
direction.
helicopters work.
Oh, that would be a
No?
cool topic, but it's not it. No.
Okay.
Okay. Specifically, it has to do with aerodynamics.
Wing, airfoils, wind tunnels, lift.
Okay. The last one's a dead giveaway. Chuck Yeager was the first person to break it.
The sound barrier.
Yes.
Whoa, thank God I knew that.
I saw the like smoke coming out of your
I
head.
panicked for 2 seconds. I was like, okay.
Yes, you
Okay,
got
that's
it.
so
So,
cool. Okay, good
yes.
topic.
So, the reason that we're talking about the sound barrier is because I've always had a fascination with the Concorde, which we're going to talk about more later. But the
Okay.
Concorde is was like the first commercial airplane to break the sound barrier. And I can't wait to deep dive into that
Okay,
and
cool.
share more. So I'm going to start because there's a lot of information.
Yes, let's do it.
So, Abs, what is the sound barrier? Like, what do you know about it?
Okay, when an airplane, let's say, or any body, I guess, is moving fast enough where they're moving at the speed of sound, that there's like a sonic boom, basically, right?
Yeah, that's it. We don't
And
need to pod
then
anymore. No.
yeah, that's it. And it's like where the air is like catching up to the sound or something. I don't know. Basically,
Yeah,
there's a big
so
boom when you hit the speed. And
that's
you
pretty
heard it
good.
over Texas when the remember you were saying when you decided to do aerospace and you heard it over Texas.
Yes. Yes, you have a
Yes.
good memory.
So yeah,
I was about to
I
say,
can
give me
remember
your
1 week
degree
ago.
back. I'm sending it back to see you. I'm
Is that
just
like
kidding.
way off? The
No,
where it's
no,
like
it
you're
wasn't.
traveling at the speed of sound?
No, no, you're
Okay.
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So, like, it's pretty, it's like technical, but I thought some of the background behind it was really interesting as well.
Perfect.
Because I'm gonna start there and then I'll get into kind of like what it is. And then aircraft that actually can break the sound barrier. So
Cool.
the sound barrier. Not that long ago, people thought that the sound barrier was essentially like a physical wall that you would run into. So um, until the first time it was actually broken, it was commonly believed that any aircraft would be destroyed by going the speed of sound. So today we know that the sound barrier is actually a sudden increase in aerodynamic drag that happens when the object approaches the speed of sound. And what is the speed of sound known as? How fast? Like, what's the name of it?
Oh my gosh.
You can do it. It starts with an M.
Yeah.
It's 4 letters.
What?
Mach.
Oh my gosh.
Mach 1.
Stupid, stupid.
No, Mach 1.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
I'm glad this
why
isn't a
did
trivia episode.
I like quizzing you because it's fun?
I know, and I blank. I panic when you
I have
quiz
other
me.
quiz questions in here, so you better be prepared.
Like if you had asked
So,
me what Mach 5 was, I'd be like 5 times the speed of sound. If you asked me like the opposite, I blank.
yeah, I probably would be the same way, honestly, if I hadn't looked it up. But okay, so why did people believe that the sound barrier was a physical wall? So during World War II, pilots reported that their aircraft would tear apart, and their instruments would start tearing apart, and their instruments would start freezing up when they dove during combat, during
Okay.
like dog fighting. And scientists believe that that's probably about the moment that they approached the speed of sound. And so they colloquially said that it was basically like hitting a wall.
Okay.
Um, and then in the 1940s, like during World War II, the proper design techniques and aerodynamics for a airplane that could actually surpass the speed of sound wasn't known.
So
So
technically at that time, the aircrafts were not built to like withstand the sudden drag, so it like they would have disintegrated essentially.
yeah, so
Okay.
yes, so aircraft back then specifically didn't have little or no wing sweep. So if you think of like really fast
Oh.
airplanes like jets and things that we now know can break the speed of sound, you see that
Mhm.
they have a lot of wing sweep with, which I'm trying to figure out a way to explain it without a visual, but essentially like instead of perpendicular from the airplane, it's like your arms are back behind you, basically.
Right. Okay.
And then back then the wings they were thick and they had blunt leading edges. So
Okay.
that's like basically the opposite of what you need
Right.
for an aircraft that breaks the speed of sound. So the increase from shock waves. So shock waves start to form at the very leading edge of the wing. So like right at the front of the wingtip, form accelerated flow over the wing. And even though the aircraft is not actually yet exceeding the speed of sound, which These shock waves cause pressure fields on the wings and can lead to significant flow separation behind the shock waves, aka lots of drag.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very sudden, like it happens very quickly. It's not just kind of like you're leading up to it. Like once you are approaching the speed of sound, it happens very quickly. In the 1940s, no aircraft had gone faster than that.
Okay.
So did drag cause structural failures, specifically in World War II aircraft when approaching the speed of sound? The answer is no. Drag itself is not the reason that it would cause a structural failure, because drag forces usually don't affect the structure itself. The two other failure modes, which remember failure modes?
Yeah, so fun.
Yeah, there's two other failure modes that cause this when you're approaching the speed of sound. The first one is called flutter. And flutter is an unstable coupling of the aerodynamics of the aircraft and the natural vibration modes of the aircraft structure. So do you remember in college when
this is making me have flashbacks?
Yeah, so when we were in college, do you remember where we would have like an airplane model in our structures class and we would vibrate it and then we would like flash a strobe light at it? Do you remember this? And you would have to like by looking at it and knowing what frequency you're actually vibrating the airplane at, you could determine what like the natural frequencies of the aircraft were.
Yes.
So that just reminded me of this. But yeah, so the natural frequencies of the aircraft and flutter.
Okay, so when you said the drag is not directly causing the failure, that like if it was, that would mean basically like a wing is ripping off, right? Like structurally, the airplane would break apart because of how much drag.
Yeah, so the way that I understand it is that the drag is essentially enabling like the flutter and the natural frequencies of,
but it's not just drag itself like breaking apart the airplane. Okay.
Yeah. Drag just slows you down.
Okay,
but yeah,
that makes sense.
It's all these other things. The second possible cause is change in aircraft stability. So this can happen when, you know, drag is a force and you're putting so much drag on the aircraft that it's stressing the aircraft structurally to a point of failure. Okay. So the presence of these shock waves that I was talking about earlier that occur on the leading edge of the wing can change how the plane responds to gusts or control inputs, which is like, we should do a whole episode on airplane controls. So like the different elevator and pitch, elevator, and then rudder. No. What is the last one?
It's like aileron or something.
Aileron, yes. Aileron, good job. Yeah. Yes. Woo! Yeah. And so that can lead to structural failure. Okay. So, due to the sudden and extreme catastrophic nature of these failure modes, pilots usually didn't survive if they got very close. Back then, too.
Scary.
Yeah. So they couldn't really learn much about it because the pilots couldn't really tell them like what was occurring when they got close to it. So Abs, what speed do you break the sound barrier at?
Oh my God. Mach 1.
Yes. It's a trick question.
Does it start with a 3?
No. I mean, maybe if you converted it to like some type of random unit, yeah, maybe.
What unit are you?
Let's do miles per hour.
I don't know.
So the answer
Should I know
is a
this
trick question. Well, it's a trick question. It depends. So the speed at which you break the sound barrier depends on the conditions outside and your altitude. But at sea level, it's about 770 miles per hour. Okay. So that's pretty dang fast. So yeah, like how fast? So this actually had me thinking, how fast does a Formula One car go? Like we talked about last week. 200 miles an hour.
210 is like the tops.
Okay. That's crazy.
So like, yeah, 3.5 times that is the speed of sound. That's wild.
That is crazy. Okay. So what else do you think, other than an airplane, could break the sound barrier? That might have broken the sound barrier prior to airplanes.
Prior to airplanes.
Yeah.
That's going
What's something that
700
travels?
miles an hour?
Yes.
Um, I don't know.
Bullets.
Oh. Oh, is
Yeah.
that why
So
is that why there's like a Big Bang? Yeah. When they get shot?
maybe. Maybe. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. But I just thought it was interesting because I would have never thought of that. But yeah, bullets had exceeded the speed of sound long before our friend Chuck Yeager.
That totally makes sense. Okay.
And for a long time, people were just like, humans can't do it.
I bet the sound is
So
amplified by that if you're shooting,
oh
you
yeah,
know.
I'm sure. It's
'Cause
going so
I guess I
fast.
just assumed it was like the mechanical stuff of like the gunpowder exploding and stuff, but it's probably also partly breaking the sound barrier.
Going really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense. Okay. So I mentioned previously that the first person to break the sound barrier was Chuck Yeager. Um,
Yes.
and Chuck Yeager was a U.S. Air Force captain, and he officially broke the sound barrier on October 14th, 1947, in the Bell X-1 rocket plane. He passed Mach 1 following his airplane dropping from a B-29 airplane. And he proved that passengers could break the sound barrier without injury.
Wow.
Yes. Let's see.
That would
Oh, I
be
lost my notes.
so terrifying if
I
everyone
know.
thought that you would die and you're like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I
Let's
don't
test
know.
it.
I'm also pretty sure that I've seen his aircraft. I'm pretty sure I, for some reason, didn't look this one up, but I'm pretty sure his aircraft is at the Smithsonian in DC. So
Oh, dang,
I'm
that's cool.
like 90% sure it is there. If you want to see it, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I wanted to read a quote about from him about breaking the sound barrier. So what he said was, quote, leveling off at 42,000 feet, I had 30% of my fuel. So I turned on rocket chamber 3 and immediately reached 0.96 Mach, so a little bit less than the speed of sound. I noticed that the faster I got, the smoother the ride. Suddenly, the Mach needle began to fluctuate. It went up to 0.965 Mach, then tipped right off the scale. We were flying Supersonic, and it was as smooth as a baby's bottom. Grandma could be sitting up there sipping lemonade.
Oh, wow.
End quote.
That would be so cool. So I
Yeah.
figured that out.
You know what that reminded me of, though? The last Top Gun movie. Do you
Yeah.
remember when he's going like 7 times the speed of
I
sound or
was
something?
just about to bring that up because he was like, they were doing the Mach 10 test. And they're like,
Yes.
yay, we got to Mach 10. And then he's like, I'm going to do a little more. Also, that he
Yeah.
survives. Please.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. No thanks.
Nice.
So what causes the sonic boom? Pressure waves, also known as sound waves, propagate at the speed of sound. And when an aircraft is moving faster than the speed of sound, aka breaking the sound barrier, the pressure waves don't propagate in front of the aircraft, but rather create a wave similar to the wake of a boat that follows along the aircraft. So that's kind of what you were saying at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to so eloquently explain.
And a
Thank you
sonic boom,
for that.
a sonic boom is the wave passing the observer, basically.
Okay, so when you're in the plane, do you hear, I'm assuming you hear the sonic boom
That's a great
pretty clearly,
question.
or yeah, I wonder if it's as noticeable to the
I
pilot because it's behind you, but not that far
I'm
behind
wondering
you,
if you
probably.
don't hear it. I'm wondering if you don't hear it. But
Yeah, maybe. We'll put that in the stories. We'll look up an
yeah, I'll look
article or
that up.
something.
I didn't think about that. Yeah. Um, I found this interesting. So I think a lot of people have seen pictures of like aircraft through breaking the sound barrier. Have you
Yeah.
seen those where it looks like kind of like a dome?
Yeah.
Um, so you can't actually capture that on like a regular camera. You can't like with your
Oh,
iPhone try to capture it at the right image.
okay.
So Yeah, you can't see a sonic boom without very specialized imaging technology. And I found
Oh.
this interesting. I kind of like went into a deep dive on that. It's called the Schillerian imaging, and
Oh.
it shows kind of like different densities in a fluid. So it can show that in air. So it shows the like density around the aircraft or the aircraft's wing actually changing at that specific point in time.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that traditional picture you've seen of like a jet going really fast
Hmm.
and breaking the sound barrier, they call that the vapor cone.
Okay.
And it's the condensation that appears behind an aircraft as it approaches Mach 1.
Hmm.
Or they also call it shock collars or shock eggs. I have not heard shock eggs, but I have heard shock collars.
Let's adopt that. Shock eggs.
Shock eggs.
Shock eggs. Shock
Yeah.
eggs. That's cool. I didn't realize you couldn't see those.
Yeah,
Like I thought that those were just
either.
regular camera pictures this whole time.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, I found that interesting too. Um, I had a bunch of kind of like random facts that I've compiled into this my
Do
like
it.
random facts section. So it's not like
Perfect.
flowing very well, but okay, so there's this thing called the Mach tuck. So pilots flying at supersonic speeds experience something called a Mach tuck,
Okay.
or compressibility, and that's changing airflow over the wing, alters the wing's center of pressure, causing the aircraft to actually start to pitch downward towards the ground. So special measures have to be taken to mitigate this effect, so that as soon as you get close to the speed of sound, you don't just like take a nosedive.
So did Charles, what's his last name?
Chuck Yeager.
Yegan?
Charles.
Chuck.
Sir Charles Yeager.
Charles Yeager. Did he know about that? Like, I'm curious how much they knew before he was just like, I'm dropping in, because if he just hit Mach 1 and then nose dove.
Yeah, I feel like if you look at his aircraft,
to
me, it doesn't look like a traditional aircraft that would be capable of exceeding Mach 1. But okay. I don't know but probably like the amount that they knew.
Because it dropped in, right? Probably gives them a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, the B-29 dropped him, which is kind of crazy to think about, like an aircraft dropping another aircraft.
Yeah, well, that's like the scramjet. Remember you were talking about the scramjet the other week? I think the scramjets a lot of times get dropped in like that. So wild.
I need to look that up because I said scramjet and that came out of the like depths of my memory and I don't even know what it is.
I'm pretty sure a scramjet you have to be moving so like it is useless until you're over Mach 1. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
So they have to drop you in like very fast to actually get it to function.
That's
like the one thing I took from school.
Wow, that's really good.
If that's correct. So wow, it's all tying in.
Yeah, and do you remember a big part of propulsion was like you had to calculate how fast air was going through an engine?
Oh my gosh.
And it would be like if
they
you
always did a scramjet engine.
Yeah, because air going through an engine, it sucks in air that's like faster than the speed of sound. So it has to
and then it compresses it in the tiny little area. And they're like, so what's the velocity in this? And then our test
in this section.
Side note would be like 3 questions. And I'm like, okay, 3 questions is fine. And they'd have like 18 parts a piece. Like, where's the velocity of all the air in each part of the engine?
And if you didn't get part 1 right,
your
part like 18 would tell you that like you're going like a million miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm like, I got that we're going backwards 20 miles an hour. Is that right? And by then you've wasted the entire test time and you can't go back. So
yeah,
not so good.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. Okay, so now we get to talk about the Concorde, which I am obsessed with the Concorde. The first supersonic passenger aircraft was the Concorde, and it entered commercial service in 1976. It could reach speeds of Mach 2.04.
Whoa.
And that's about 1,354 miles per hour. And it could complete a transatlantic flight in just a little over 3 hours. So think about like a flight from like from like Denver to Germany is like 8 to 10 hours.
3 hours? Yeah.
It's 8 hours, yeah. So the Concorde could do it in 3, which is crazy.
And this was a commercial. Okay,
Commercial airline.
sorry to say, I know nothing about the Concorde, and I didn't even really know this existed. And I didn't
Oh,
know it was a
really?
well, I did well, I've heard of it, but I didn't know it was a passenger plane that
Passenger
was
airplane.
taking everyone
Yes.
so quickly.
Yes,
That's
it's
crazy.
crazy. It was super expensive to fly on for the like rich of the rich.
Okay,
Um,
that makes
only
sense.
20 were built.
Mm,
Um, and getting a little bit into its design. So it was mainly built out of aluminum and high temperature alloys, which allow it to withstand extremely high pressure or temperatures. Because
okay.
when you break the sound barrier, you have a lot of drag and that creates, friction and it
Right.
gets really hot. Kind of like when a spacecraft like re-enters the atmosphere.
Oh,
It gets
okay.
really hot.
Makes sense.
Um so the fact that it heats up also causes the aircraft actually expands 6 to 10 inches at its cruising speed at Mach 2 because of thermal
Whoa.
expansion.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you know how many passengers it held? Did you say that already? Or do you
Um,
know?
that's a great question, actually. I don't have that on here.
We can look it up, but
I'm gonna talk about this, but I've been inside one. And it's not quite as big as like a normal passenger aircraft today, but it's bigger than like a private jet.
okay.
Um, yeah, I'll look it up. I'll put it in
Okay.
stories.
Perfect.
Um, on a regular flight, the Concorde could consume up to 6,700 gallons of fuel, and the cost of fuel quickly exceeded any profits that they would make
Mm.
from operating it. Another thing was because supersonic travel is really loud. They had issues emerging on restrictions on like where they could actually fly.
Mm.
Um, and they could really only go supersonic over the ocean because it sent a shock wave into the air so strong that it would shatter glass if it went over densely populated
Oh
areas.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I
So,
was gonna ask, why don't they fly these anymore?
oh yeah, there's many reasons.
I understand.
Yeah. Cities issued many noise complaints as the Concorde flew overhead initially, causing lots of problems. One incident caused the demise of the Concorde, and this was on July 25th, 2000, an Air France flight 4590. Some debris blew a tire and punctured one of the fuel tanks. The fire and engine failure caused the Concorde to crash into a nearby hotel and killed 113 people.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, so after that, the Concorde was basically done so. But the Concorde does hold the record for the fastest transatlantic airliner from New York to London. The fastest airliner circumnavigations going both east and west.
Wow.
And when the Concorde, so I have seen the Concorde at Boeing's, it's called the Museum of Flight in Seattle.
Okay.
Um, they got special permission to go supersonic over Canada to set a record. So that was pretty cool. The fastest
Huh.
flight from New York to Seattle.
And how do you know how long it was?
I don't. I need to put that in there. Yeah, I
Okay.
didn't get the time for that.
We'll do all the record-breaking
All the
stats and the
stats.
stories.
Yes.
Dang, that's cool. I didn't realize that happened in our lifetime. For some reason, I think of the Concorde as like only in the
I
70s.
yeah, I mean, I do think it's crazy it lasted that 30 years. Well, I guess like 25 years, but
Yeah, that
still.
is
I
kind of
mean,
crazy.
I would have been nervous flying on it, and I'm an aerospace engineer.
Yeah.
I walked in it. So when you can actually walk through it at this Museum of Flight, I don't know why I'm obsessed with the Concorde, but it's very narrow. So like
Mm.
think of like half the width of what you're used to when you're on a normal like passenger airplane.
Okay.
It's very narrow and very short. And you're in a cylindrical tube of death, I feel like.
Yeah, that'd
Just
be
feels like
risky.
it feels like it's made to be a bullet going really fast, which it is.
Gosh.
So
That would be again just really scary being like the first one on, the first Concorde flight.
yes.
Like You got to be accepting death at that point. Like I might just not come back. That's
Yes,
crazy.
I know. One thing I didn't have time to research that I would have been more interested in was like the pilots that flew the Concorde. Like,
Oh
hey,
yeah.
we've never done this before. We have to figure out a training program to teach you how to fly a supersonic aircraft. I wonder if they were like all ex-military or what, but pretty crazy.
I would assume they're ex-military, I feel like, for something like that.
Yeah, I read something here that like the way that the front of it is designed, they had to like do it a specific way because of what I was talking about with the like once you get close to the speed of sound, it causes you to like pitch down.
Oh yeah.
Um, so lots of factors had to go into it.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I would ever get on that.
Yeah, I don't think I would either. I'm gonna look up how much a ticket costs too.
Well,
And like
especially now
convert
that I
that to
know that one of
today's.
them just smashed into a hotel, I guess that would
Yeah.
alter my decisions also. But still,
Yeah.
like anything that new, I'm not itching to go on, I wouldn't
Yeah, I'm good.
say. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's the Concorde. I have a couple more things. Um, do you know who the first woman was to break the speed of sound?
No.
So,
Valentina. Just
no,
kidding.
no.
Just kidding.
Tereshkova, no. So I only know this. Her name's Jackie Cochran, and she was
Okay.
actually friends with Chuck Yeager. But she broke the sound barrier in 1953 in a Sabre 3 in California.
Okay.
Um, she was 48 years old when she broke the sound barrier.
Wow.
And if you want to
Nice.
read more about her, I'm going to post this book too. I really enjoyed this book. It's called Fly Girls. It's about Jackie Cochran and Amelia Earhart's in it, and it's kind of about the first few people that formed the 99s, which I'm gonna save that and do like a podcast on that
Okay.
episode.
Cool.
But yeah. Um, Another interesting fact is in 2012, an Austrian skydiver jumped. His name was Felix
Oh,
Baumgartner.
I'm obsessed with him and I know nothing about him.
Yeah,
I
he
was obsessed with this story when it was
yeah
happening.
he jumped from a height of 24 miles, reaching a top speed of Mach 1.25 during his free fall skydive.
That would
Can you
be
imagine?
insane. Okay, so I'm trying to phrase this like, you know how now everyone's kind of going to the edge of space. Is that
Yeah.
considered we should look up if that is considered space because wasn't the whole thing that was that he was like skydiving from space?
Yeah. But do you remember that like the Air Force and like NASA have different definitions of what space is?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a few. I mean, I don't know who defined them, but I know there's like a few different definitions. And I
Yeah.
feel like one is way higher than the other.
Yeah.
Like
I
a lot of
think
people are
I think they're pretty
astronauts
different.
based off of one definition, but not the other.
Yeah. I think
So
that's true.
yeah, that
Um
is crazy. So I wonder what your body goes through going at Mach 1.
didn't he black out? He had to have blacked
I
out.
think he did. I think there was a time when he was like started spinning
Yeah.
kind of uncontrollably while he was blacking out and they thought he was like I don't mean to laugh that he almost died, but like it was kind of crazy watching it back where they're like, okay, like oh my gosh.
Yeah, they
And
couldn't
everyone
contact him or something.
yeah, I think something kind of went wrong halfway through, but I think he like, came to in enough time and everything, so it was fine. But
That was with Red Bull, wasn't it? Wasn't that like a Red Bull
yes,
thing?
yeah, Red
Crazy.
Bull strikes again. They're great
I
at
don't
advertising.
I don't even know like this article was written in 2023, so I'm assuming nobody's had done it since then, since
Yeah,
2012.
I feel like we probably would have heard about it, but
Yeah. Or
did you
maybe
know that
not.
Red Bull was an Austrian company,
I didn't know
which is
that.
why they
Then he's
sponsored
an
him?
Austrian skydiver. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I only learned that because of F1.
I would have cried standing up there on that platform.
Oh, yeah, I don't know how he didn't. I think at that point, like, what if he just called it up like this whole spectacle and he's just like, never mind, I'm too scared.
You
I think he
can at
had
that
no
point.
choice. He had no choice at that point.
Yeah. How would he
He
get
had to do
down? He had to jump.
it.
He was
So
in like a
true.
space balloon, right?
Yeah, so
That's
true.
crazy. All right, my last supersonic aircraft that I'm obsessed with is the SR-71 Blackbird.
Okay.
It's the world's fastest manned aircraft. The Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird is capable of sustaining speeds exceeding Mach 3, which is 2,300 miles per hour.
Oh my.
It owns the record for the fastest air-breathing man-powered aircraft. It doesn't fly anymore, but if you want to see it, I've seen this one too in Washington, D.C.
You're obsessed.
I'm obsessed.
You're a mad woman.
I know. It's at the Udvar Hazy Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
It looks like a spaceship. You stand in front of it. My whole body got chills. It was amazing. The whole thing is awesome. The windows on it are so small, and the whole thing is black. It has swept wings.
Oh, I think I've seen this.
Really cool. It looks
not in person, but I think I've seen
Yeah.
a picture.
Yeah, and I think in the future, I have so many podcast topics I want to do. I want to do a whole thing on the Blackbird because it's a Skunkworks product. It's really cool.
That is really cool. You know what we should do? Which I feel like we're gonna have a growing list of this, is like we should go on a podcast trip to Washington, D.C. to the Smithsonian and this museum and like vlog it and put it on the YouTube channel.
We should. That sounds amazing. And we can write it off as a business expense.
Great. Yeah. Tax-free, baby.
Yes. All right. That's all I have for Supersonic.
That was a good topic.
Flying, the sound barrier.
I like those topics where it's like a little bit of history, a little bit of technical. So
yeah.
Good job,
like
Sam.
Yay, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to subscribe on whatever platform you are watching on or listening on. Leave us a review if you're feeling generous. We need to push this out to more people. So recommend to a friend, tell your mom about the podcast, leave us a review. Anything would help. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.